Hello, hello, and welcome back to Password. We're in Sally Boy's route still. It's been a couple days since I recorded. I don't remember what scene this is. Whoops. It is what it is. Sal died in the freezer. My eyes glanced over to it while I ate. We didn't get very far, and my pen was poised over the spot on the page I'd prepared to take my notes. No one seemed to have been able to pull it off, if we wanted to assume the best of everyone, which was fine, but it didn't solve the mystery of what I'd seen. The longer I stared, the less conscious of time I became, until Orlando nudged me and gave me a funny look. Shaking my head at him and shoveling what was left of the sandwich I was eating into my mouth, keeping my gaze averted. I excused myself and went to stand outside, drumming my fingers against a notebook as I held it. Worried that I made no progress, I wondered what the next step would be. Someone had to have killed Sal, right? It had to be someone. The moment I thought about it, the more I was split between wondering what I'd overlooked and what seemed to be just an accident. Oh, excuse me. Dropping my notebook, I clutched my ears, moving to grab the fur atop my head, and the moment I got purchased of it, I started to tug. It hurt, and part of me felt like I deserved this somehow, but it didn't last long. A strong grip held my wrist, but by whoever was standing behind me.
Don't do that.
As I turned to look at Sal, I pulled my arms away from my head, slowly the moment he'd let go of me. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
I felt like he was going to follow up with something, but didn't. Instead, he opted to reach out for my face, lightly running his claw through the fur on my cheeks.
You barely ate at lunch. Tyson asked me to check up on you.
That sounds like something Ty would do. I sighed out, and Sal pulled away. I felt silly, but it was hard to shake how much I was worrying about it. How much this was worrying me. Whoops, I can't.
It wasn't just Tyson. Dean asked me too, as did Roswell.
I whined, rubbing my face harder.
Hey, stop that. I know earlier didn't really help, but did you want to talk about it?
Okay. He just looks so concerned here. Like, it's like the only portrait of these where he looks like actively concerned. It's a little cute. Sal came to stand next to me, and much like earlier that morning, I sighed out, not sure where to place my thoughts.
Is this really bothering you? This is really bothering you, isn't it?
What do you think, Sal? I've seen you die once. I've seen Benson die. Hell, I've seen Roswell die too. I'm just scared. He shifted next to me, clearly uncomfortable, but I continued anyway. If I never messed with the vault downstairs, this vacation would have probably gone a lot better. Or a lot worse, considering.
If you didn't, I'd be dead.
He was right, and I felt guilty having said what I did, but this tone wasn't one of someone insulted or hurt over what I said. If anything, he was more reassuring than he should have been.
I hope I thanked you for that, Dave.
But what if Ty's right? What if I imagined it?
Then I wouldn't have woken up next to Orlando and give him a fright before checking in on you that morning. Whatever happened that night was enough to convince you and Orlando that I was in trouble, and you were brave enough to intervene. So please don't give up. I can only imagine the burden you must bear, and wish I could shoulder them for you, but...
He trailed off there, and we looked at one another uncertain. Sal, does it get easier?
It shouldn't, but it does.
But how? Why? What do you do to make it easier?
I talk to Dean about things. I talk to Orlando about other things. It's mostly just a lot of talking if I normally get talked over.
Do you just not notice?
Orlando can be cute when he's babbling about something he's passionate about, so I don't mind.
Sal chuckled, scratching the back of his head before continuing.
Dean is less cute about it, but he apologizes eventually.
And that doesn't upset you? I guess I took that for granted with Tyson. He normally just lets me ramble on about whatever until I notice and then laugh it off.
He probably thinks you're being cute. You and him are close, so that makes sense to me.
You think he likes that?
I know he does. I know I do.
I back away from the edge of the deck and look to Sal, his expression fairly stoic. I half expected a smile after a comment like that. Sal, what do I do now?
What do you want to do? For the most part, I feel doing more of what we did this morning isn't going to get us anywhere.
Should we just... Sal wandered forward and placed a hand on my head.
How about we go for a swim?
Really?
Or you can use the hot tub. It doesn't bother me. The important part, though, is that I find it easier to relax while in the water sometimes.
But what about... He placed a hand over my mouth gently, cutting me off.
It takes my mind off things, if only replaced by other things, but taking a break from things is something you need.
After some coaxing, he headed back inside to get ready. Sal and I headed to the pool. Well, we're here.
Come on, Dave. It's not that bad.
I know. Sorry, just... I rolled my hands in the air. Not really sure what I wanted to say before I knew it, though. Hey! Sal had lifted me up and was carrying me over his shoulder towards the water, stepping down into the water step by step. He set me down gently, and I flinched at the sudden temperature change.
Here, now lay back.
What? Sal eased me back so that I was floating, and he supported me gently from underneath.
Now close your eyes.
Okay. When I closed my eyes, I realized the main thing I could hear was the sound of the water moving. It gently rippled and splashed around me. I felt Sal's hand support me under my head, keeping me above the water as I just let my mind wander. Breathing out a sigh, everything started to get quiet. I could picture my living room, the sofa that sat underneath the front window, and where I sat most days, waiting for Dad to come home. When Mom and Dad were both home, we'd all sit there next to each other, but most days it was just Dad and I watching TV. I thought of my bedroom, where I spent a lot of time when the house was empty, or when it was empty and Mom and Dad were downstairs being loud. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. I always know, depending on who talked to me first after. If it was in a good way, it was Mom. If it was bad, then Dad would normally come grab me and we'd go get ice cream. Oh. That's, yeah. Thinking about it was making me uncomfortable, and I started to come back to reality. Sal supported my head, and back was something I was becoming more familiar with until eventually. He let out a gasp, eyes flying open and staring up the ceiling. I let out a gasp, eyes floating. Okay.
Dave, are you all right? You started shaking and...
Our eyes met, and I croaked out a reply, pushing myself gently away to wade in the pool next to Sal. Yeah, just some bad memories.
What? Okay.
As I wade there, dropping shit. That sick feeling started to return.
Sorry if this isn't helping. I thought that clearing your head might help.
Watching Sal's reflection in the water, I sighed out, tearing my gaze away to the side to look, and nothing in particular. To look at nothing in particular, right? That sounds a little better.
I'm not very good at this at all. After all, am I? I feel like asking what could be the worst thing to happen isn't the right thing to do right now either.
I should probably turn up the volume of the game. I just noticed that was really low. Oh well, oh well. Right. With a sigh, Sal scratched his head.
I blame Dean for this.
Why? What? Everyone's always blaming Dean for everything.
He's normally the one that would try and ground me like that. He'd say something like, "What's the worst thing that could happen? Sun is still going to come out tomorrow. So if you want, we can go get a burger."
Why burgers?
The last time he said that, he was having a fight with his brother. Otherwise, it'd be pizza. If you want, we can try doing that.
Going to get pizza?
No, trying to figure out what's the worst thing could happen.
Oh, it is day 10. Oh, okay. I quickly looked at him before looking away again, keeping my voice low. I'd say I don't know, I almost, like, I know this is, like, the thing for Massacre, right? Probably. But I look at this, and I'm like, oh, man. Like, oh, what was the wording on, oh my god, I'm gonna have to Google it, because I don't remember what it is. But the saying from Final Fantasy IX with Freya, what was her, like, tagline? Oh no, I was hoping just Googling Freya. What was the line? Ah, yes. Despair, to be forgotten, is worse than death. Poor Freya. I always feel bad because, like, Freya's such an interesting character and a really broken party member, so I like having her in the party. But, like, damn, like, she gets completely forgotten after Disc 2. It's like, yeah, you can tell 9 was released horribly unfinished. Like, half the party members, their storylines just end before the halfway point of the game. Like, you look at Amarant and you're like, oh, ugh. What happened to his character arc? It just stops after a certain point. Whatever. There's also, oh no, I'm gonna have to, like, Google this one too, because I always liked this line from Persona 2. Yeah, that scene with Maya at near the end of Persona 2 Innocent Sin, where she says, "Worse than alone, exiled. Worse than exiled, dead. Worse than dead, forgotten." And look what Atlas did to her. And her game. Persona 2, best Persona. Sal nodded slowly and placed a hand on my shoulder.
Everyone dies, Dave.
Well, yeah, but I mean...
I know what you mean, but you can't stop people from leaving before their time. At least, assuming natural causes, and... anyway. I think you could do worse than that.
Like what? He muttered something under his breath. It took a few moments before he spoke again. and looked me dead in the eyes.
Dave, the most precious thing to you is your friends, right? More than anything else, you care for them and think the world of them.
I nodded, fidgeting. Right, of course.
So, the worst thing would be infighting. Tyson against Roswell, me against Dean, any number of combinations.
Actually, anyone versus Roswell is fine by me, but that's, you know.
If we ever get to the point of outright antagonism towards one another, the worst that could happen would be excess violence.
Excessive violence, whatever. Right, beating each other up would be pretty bad, so... I trailed off while I looked at Sal. He said nothing to cut me off, but the stare he gave me implies that he meant something much worse.
Dave, the worst thing that could happen to you would be your friends killing one another, which is gonna happen tonight when I kill Roswell and Dean.
Well, it was tomorrow morning, right? Something like that.
Be it bloodshed or toxic relationships, them destroying one another, if not themselves, would be the death of you.
I whined, clutching my head.
Listen to me, Dave. Think of it rationally for a moment. Think of it carefully. How likely is it that your friends are to massacre one another? That they're going to have to clean up a slaughter? That you're going to have to clean up a slaughter caused by the people you care about?
My whining grew loud again, and I started to tug at my ears. Please stop! I don't... Sal roughly grabbed me by the arms and pulled them down so that they were locked to my sides.
Dave, listen to me. How likely is that to happen?
I stared at him, trembling, but remembering that he offered before, I opted to awkwardly collapse into him, and he took the hint to hug me tight.
I'm sorry, but you need to realize this. We don't want to kill each other. Normal people don't want to kill each other if they're friends. So it's okay.
I put my arms around him and whimpered. That's what that is. Yeah. Then he stroked my back.
There's not going to be a massacre, Dave. There's not going to be any mess that you're going to have to face. Don't worry.
But how do you know?
Shall we go down the list? Roswell, mouth on him, but outside of not having tact sometimes, he's harmless. Orlando, much the same, given he's not worried about fights, ignoring that he's armed at all times with fire. Dean's strong but caring, despite having Roswell's problem of a little tact at times. Haas has some claws on him, but I get the impression he's just a kitten when things get heated. Tyson, I don't think even he'd resort to bloodshed unless you were in danger.
When I didn't respond immediately, he sighed out, pulling me back and lifting my chin carefully so he could look at me. It didn't last long, but his next words came out as an unsure mumble.
How about after dinner? We wander down to the vault and check that out.
Why the vault? Why not now? Excuse me.
Because right now I need a break, and so do you. So after you calm down, you're going to sit down in the hot tub and just unwind.
He ran his claw through my fur, gently scratching the top of my scalp.
I'll join you, so don't worry.
It didn't take long to get from the pool to the tub, and the hot water did help. So much that I didn't register Sal sitting next to me for a good while. Then afternoon rolled by until it was getting time for dinner, and after a quick rinse off and heading back to and heading back inside to get changed, we went for dinner. Yeah, it's been a long day, so I took the time to just zone out and think. Not that it didn't do enough of that in the hot tub, but I still had a lot on my mind. But even with everyone looking happy, a doubt lingered, something that I knew I'd at least get to address when we were all alone. When dinner was done, I rushed upstairs to grab my notebook, then made a beeline for the room downstairs. Sal was hot on my heels when I made it to the back of the foyer. We headed back to the basement with Sal right behind me to the point that the moment I stepped up to the vault, he eased me back from it gently.
Hold on.
What's wrong?
There's no rush. You're going to work yourself up if you go charging in like that.
But I looked at the keypad, then the large reinforced door next to it. This was my lifeline to keeping everyone alive, or at least as far as as so far it had been. That would mean if I discovered something more right now.
Let's start with something.
Like what?
Well, for starters, what were you planning on putting in there? Were you just going to guess? I don't think our investigation earlier helped.
Chuckling nervously, I dropped my gaze to the floor.
Do you have any ideas?
Well, maybe. I thought back to back to talking with Oswin about how the vault worked, and looking back to the keypad, he said that the vault required trauma to work, and something to do with one's survival instinct. I just think, like, the word that I put in may have traumatized me.
Maybe you shouldn't put words like that in, then.
No, I mean, like, they traumatized me in, the future. No, wait, that, I scratched my head, not really understanding it all. Maybe it was something I needed to ask Oswin about the next time we spoke.
I don't get it.
If I'm being honest, neither do I, but it's just, I guess that's how these things go. I gestured to the vault door. You don't always, see things like this, so who knows what the rules are?
The one who made it.
I guess so, but that doesn't help me here at all. Help me out here.
What happens if you get it right?
Well, the last time I sort of blacked out and, well, I had a vision or a memory.
You got knocked out. You're lucky you didn't fall over and hit your head. It could have been pretty serious down here by yourself.
I looked around the room, wondering if Oswin was watching even now. Maybe, but I don't know.
You're still gonna try.
There was no good answer I could have given, so instead I just focused on the keypad, breathing in deep. I don't remember how to spell massacre. Where's my notepad file? There it is. Massacre. The moment I heard the chime, I smiled, sighing out with relief for for all of a moment before I realized what was about to happen. I blacked out, and as I began to fall, I could hear Sal call out to me, and me falling and crashing into something. It was Sal, with an axe, and Dean? I could hear him calling to me, but this voice was barely recognizable, as if he was talking to me while I was underwater. Maybe my head hurt, almost like a stabbing pain coming from deep within. I didn't understand what had I just seen.
Dave!
Oh, that's cute. What? Look at this smile. He comfort me. Dave, yeah. When I opened my eyes, I winced against the light. But I was resting up against someone, and it took me a few moments to realize where I was. Sal sighed out, flexing his grip on my shoulder and shifting me slightly.
What a relief.
What happened? He didn't reply right away, watching me as I looked around the room. It was exactly how I remembered it from before blacking out. My notebook was on the floor, and Sal had me in his lap as he sat against the wall.
After you put in something, you wobbled for a bit and then started to fall. You've been, unconscious for maybe 5 minutes.
That long? It felt so instant.
What did?
As I thought back, I tensed up, starting to shake. The crocodile I saw in my vision. In the vision, the one now wasn't the same person. At least not as far as I could tell. Give me one moment. Okay. I had accidentally minimized the recording program, so I was like, am I still recording? I don't know. This is what it was sort of like the past couple of times. I'd put in a word, black out, see a vision, and then wake up. But this time...
What did you see?
I whined quietly. Unsure if I should say.
Please.
It was you. He tensed up, even if his expression didn't change.
I died.
I shook my head, and the implication set in quickly. His expression turned grim.
Oh.
Looking away, I tried desperately to explain, hoping that I hadn't upset Sal. Excuse me. All the while trying to figure out what this meant. I don't know. I saw you, and Dean was there, and you had the axe, but you were covered in blood, and it looked like Dean was hurt, and...
Dave, it's alright. Do you think we're in danger?
I don't know, Sal. I just... He hushed me quietly, rubbing my shoulder.
I can think of a couple of reasons why I'd kill Dean. So much of my best... As much of my best friend he is, there's some things I'd kill someone over. Not specifically to Dean, but more the identity of an individual I don't know.
As in, someone you don't know?
Someone I don't remember, maybe. It's complicated. But it has to do with my sister. I don't like talking about it, but after I failed to save her, there were additional problems. Failed to revive her in the hospital, so they asked my parents if they'd consider donating any of her organs after there was no chance of bringing her back.
But is that so bad? I thought that was just normal.
To people that need them, yes. But for experimentations, not really. My parents didn't even flinch. They just asked how much money they'd get for her body.
Sal, I'm sorry.
It wasn't you that asked. And you're not either of my parents. It's not your fault, but...
He clenched his jaw, looking up to stare at the opposite wall. For a few moments, he stayed quiet before easing me off him, and standing, offering a hand to help me up. I retrieved my notebook, and turning to him and seeing him think things over.
I can't remember much of who exactly was behind that. All records of it seem to be gone, too. It's probably nothing important anyway. Just a petty grudge that is better left alone. Anger is a complex emotion, and rarely turn for good.
I nodded, shifting uncomfortably on the spot. But what do we do about the vision? If it's anything like last time, well...
There's nothing we can do, is there? It's all on me. You saw me with an axe, so...
Right, and we returned it to the greenhouse.
There's no telling if it's going to find its way back to me somehow, but what I can do is promise that I won't kill anyone.
Is that enough?
It is it? You saved me once already, so I'm not about to go breaking a promise I'll make to you. Still, if I'm sleepwalking, that would be a different problem, but...
The medication.
Right. If I want sleeping medication, I should seek stuff made for me, rather than ask Dean. Which unfortunately means nothing until we get back home.
Was there something to say to that? I shifted awkwardly on the spot, holding back a laugh.
I'm exhausted.
Huh?
I haven't got medicine as an option, but what restlessness I'm having can't be immediately remedied. I'm tempted to go consult Haas for his recommendation for tea.
Why don't you...
I'd hate to be a bother. If anything, an early night might be just what I need instead, but maybe reaching out for some assistance might do me some good. Alright, I'll go ask him. Are you going to be okay, Dave?
I think so. I might just turn in for the night, though. My head is still all over the place.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, I think. I just have stuff to think about. Sal nodded slowly, and the pair of us made the leave. Okay, I think I'm gonna end the part here, so I'll see you around, everyone.